I've been at war for a long time with this enemy. It's something that makes me question the decisions I'm going through. It makes me wonder if I'm on the right path in life. It makes me not want to do anything sometimes at the end of the day. I think by the title of this video, you can get what I'm referring to, and that's fear. And I think for us, for me to help you, for you to help me to get through this, is for us to talk about it in an open and honest way. So that's what we're gonna do today. Welcome to Young Humanity. I wanna help others out there because I know I'm not the only one struggling with this, right? It's an ongoing thing that we've all faced, all felt. So what can we do about it? What's something we can discuss, something we can talk about that's gonna help us get through this? I wanna help those of you who are scared to maybe take the next step in your life. You know, maybe it is making that YouTube channel like I certainly had making this kind of videos. Or maybe it's asking that friend of yours out there you've been with since junior high. Maybe it's time you do that. Maybe it's asking for a raise at your job. I wanna help give you the tools to be able to work through that, just as I am working through it now. To quote George R.R. Martin, the Game of Thrones author himself, I think this really begins to show how visceral and how constant and how damaging fear can be for us. Fear cuts deeper than swords. It's a pretty interesting image to have in our minds. And I think it's one that we actually feel if you think about it, when fear really is that intense in our lives. So let's give ourselves a true definition of the word. I think this can help us at least make this enemy slightly more understandable and factual, and not just this feeling that we get sometimes. According to Merriam-Webster, the definition of fear is an unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger. It's an instance of an emotion. And I think that's cool that we can actually apply the word emotion to fear. I think many of us aren't really sure what to qualify it as, but if it's an emotion, we can control those. Happiness, joy, anger, sadness, those are emotions that we know we can kind of help ourselves work through, whether make ourselves happy or make ourselves sad. We actually have a lot of say in that. I think that's important for us to recognize. So now we have a basic understanding, at least a factual understanding of what fear is, this emotion. And I think it's important for us to see and to look out to others and how they've handled it. So I was listening to a podcast by Tim Ferriss the other week. It's episode 243 if you want to refer back to it. He's interviewing Vince Vaughn. I know him personally from Dodgeball, which is, I think, a pretty funny movie. And it's actually really interesting to hear him talk about how he dealt with fear early on in his career. Because essentially, at the end of the day, all he was wanting to do was become a successful actor, and he was willing to do anything to do it. He would try anything. There was no fear in his pursuit of his dream, of his passion. I think we can take some inspiration from that. We can look at Vince Vaughn and see where he went and now where he's at, and understand that he had fear just as the rest of us, right? He's not some person that doesn't have that emotion whatsoever. He's a normal person like us that we can look at to see, oh yeah, we can do the same thing in our own profession or field or decisions we're trying to make. It's like when we were kids, you know, I like to look at it back in those days where we really had very little inhibition, right? If you had a dream, if you had an idea, you went and did it. Whether it was climbing that tree to the tallest you could possibly climb, and sometimes falling out. Maybe it was touching that hot stove because at that point you didn't know what it was gonna do. Or maybe it was longboarding or bike riding down a really big hill, you know, with your friends trying to have fun. Our imagination ran wild. That was just a fun thing that we could do that we wanted to try. There was no reason not to. We were fearless. But somehow, sometime, we lost that on the way. As adults now, as someone who's 25 years of age, I'm constantly second guessing the decisions I'm making. I'm fearful of the outcomes when, just like back then, I don't actually know the outcomes at all. This YouTube channel could become something big, could become something small. At the end of the day, does it matter? I am creating content that I find genuinely helpful to me and hopefully helpful to others. And if I find personal growth in that, that's really all that matters. So whether or not people hate these videos or like them, I don't know. I can't make that call. Now I'll agree, this time we have a bit more experience, right? We're not touching the stove for the first time, and I think it's almost impossible for us to turn off those adult brains of ours, whether you're in high school or a young adult. So how do we kind of manage that? I think we take a page from Vince Vaughn. We become fearless. We try things. We fail, we learn, we adapt, we do again. Because there's nothing else we can do. There's no other way to pursue life in that kind of growth. We have to try things and we're gonna fail. I know personally for me, I'm a perfectionist. And for me, I sat on the first YouTube video I posted on here for like almost 2 weeks because I just thought it wasn't good enough. My fear was people were gonna judge me, people weren't gonna like it. But we can't let fear rule our lives. My dad said that to me, and I think it's something important that I think all of us can take at heart. To quote Eleanor Roosevelt herself, I think this encapsulates really what it means for us to push past fear. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. Imagine that, you gain strength and courage when you look fear in the face. I think many of us would much rather not. We'd much rather stay on top of that hill. We'd much rather not push past that. But I think it's time that we actually do. Sometimes pushing past that fear, that idea you've always had, asking that person, your friend out you've been friends with for so long, or asking for that raise like we talked about earlier, that's when you start to feel the sense of freedom. Maybe it's longboarding down a really, really long hill. And then when you reach the bottom and you realize you've made it, that it's actually okay to try. It's okay to put the emotion of fear aside, take up courage, and really see what you can do. Because we won't know until you try. When I conquered that fear and I truly felt courage coursing through me, I felt like I was actually someone I, as a younger self, could have looked up to. That the kid version of me, of little Josh, could have looked up to me now and been like, wow, he's doing it. He's pursuing what he really wants without fear. And I really hope that you can experience these same emotions. And I think you can when we start taking the mental steps to understand what we're really trying to go through, to not let fear rule our lives. It's offered a sense of freedom I seldomly feel elsewhere in my life right now. When I know I am growing in such a way where I can start to handle fear and actually show some courage, looking fear in the face, that's where I'm feeling a sense of joy and a way to actually push forward in my life for the first time in a long time. I truly do think you'll find similar emotions when you start to do it, when you really start to look internally into how to handle your fear. I think you certainly deserve it. So go do it. There isn't a better time than right now. And we'll see you in the next video.